So I've seen different constructs. I've worked with a lot of different companies, all shapes and sizes, and I've seen many different constructs, and some are better than others or worked better than others, but I don't really think there's any right or wrong way here. I'll probably caveat all with saying that you should probably strive for one. So either pick product managers or product owners. So the companies that don't have both, they tend to fare better than companies that do have both. And that's because we need to work out the confusion between the roles and the friction between them. Where does my role start? Where does that role end? So more often than not, if you can have one, that's often better. And I've had places that have had both and they've transitioned to having one because they just found that it didn't make any sense to have both, and that having one just made sense. So let's just retitle people and work that out. But let's talk about some of the constructs because that was your question. So I'd like to answer that. But I wanted to just caveat with try and have one if you really can. All the product and tech companies have one. They don't have both. So construct number one is often where the PO is more of a junior role, and then the PM or product manager is more of a senior role. So this is like PO. In this construct, what often actually happens is the product manager is really just a senior product manager if you looked at other companies that didn't have both titles, and the product owner is more of a junior product owner. So what it often means is the product manager will span across maybe multiple teams, and they'll might be the person who is across a product area. So if you think about this, there could be, let's say that there was 3 teams. The product manager might be in one of those teams and then across all of them, and then you have a PO and a PO in here, and they will report to that person as well. Another way that this happens is that the product manager becomes like a line manager. So not here on a team, but we have POs down here and then the PMs up here. In this construct, the PO becomes less of a junior. They become really a product owner, product manager, and then this person actually is more of a product leader. So their role becomes more akin to something like a group product manager role that we see. They just don't have the title. So again, there's other ways to construct it without actually having to have both titles is really the nutshell here. So that's one construct where that role's senior, they report in. There is another one, and I don't like this one. I've never really seen this one work successfully, which is where the product manager and the product owner get split. And in a way, maybe this wouldn't be a product talk if we didn't have a Venn diagram. And the idea being this one's more externally facing, this is more internally facing. Another ways to think about it is it's more, I don't like saying strategy here. It's more market facing, and this is more delivery. This construct is a common one. I've never seen it work well because the problem is just the disconnect between like strategy in the market and delivery. One person's doing discovery, the other person's doing delivery. We start to divide those two worlds, which doesn't work well. Places that do it slightly better than other places are places that have this overlap where they still do things together. So they're often doing things like the roadmap, strategy. This is another reason why I don't like saying strategy over there. Vision, those types of things are all things that they kind of do together. But haven't really seen this one work out too well, so I'd avoid that. This is a bit better on the left because it's basically creating a senior product person or a product leader in that role. There's even the construct where essentially the PO, so in this one as well, there's a company, and I know a company, and they do this very well actually. The PO is just a career ladder. So the PO is actually more akin to, say, an associate product manager. So again, just a junior role, and then your next step in your career would be a product manager, and then senior product manager, and then you kind of go through the levels from there. One other construct that I've seen that works quite well is this concept of essentially 2 in a box. This is not this is a management construct. It's been around a lot. You see it with co-CEOs all the time. And what this is you basically get the product manager and you get the product owner, and you basically say, you two together are jointly responsible for all of basically the product. So everything we need to do for the product, they're jointly responsible for it. So for the vision, the strategy, the roadmap, the delivery, the discovery, all of it. Now, the difference here is that we don't dictate how they decide to divide that between them. So this works well in companies. So I see this work really well in companies that are more traditional. So product managers in those companies are more traditional product management. And really, when you look at their skill sets, they're actually more SMEs than anything. They know the industry really well. They know the market really well. And if we can complement that person with a product owner in this sense, but somebody who has the product craft, who is good at like execution, good at delivery, good at even things like market and discovery and all that type of stuff. So they're good at the product craft. You basically put a subject matter expert and then a product person together, and you make a holistic product manager, product owner is what you're doing. So they can draw upon that domain expertise and that experience from the product manager, and then the product owner can bring the craft side of the fence. But we don't tell them how to divide and conquer between all these responsibilities. It becomes up to them to decide to do it. So then, and I've worked in this construct inside companies before, and what I would do as a product coach is I'd actually sit down with these people and we'll run a workshop, and we'll basically decide, like, what are you doing, and then what are we doing together, right? So what are those joint activities? What are you doing? What is the product owner doing? And we divide them. So we'll run a workshop and activity to do that, and obviously we'll refine that over time, because we're not going to make it perfect straight away, but it's really up to them to work out the working relationship. So what ends up happening in this construct is, if you looked at one product owner and then you looked at another product owner, they may be doing completely different things. And that's because the pair in the two in the box will be dividing their work differently. And really what they should be trying to do is divide based on each other's expertise. They are the constructs that I've seen work. These two in particular, and this one had a few different variations on it, so I apologize about that, but there is a few different variations, which is basically just the product owner is more of a junior role, really. You also asked, what's the business driver? I tend to find in these scenarios where we have both, there isn't really much of a business driver. It's generally from introducing Agile. And what ends up happening is a whole bunch of Agile coaches come in, and then they introduce this new role called product owner, and there's all these product managers, and then we're basically confused between what the two roles are. And unfortunately, in my experience, when this has happened, the Agile experts that have come in actually know quite little around product, and as a result, they have never thought about, maybe we could reposition a product management role to be this product owner role that we want. And they introduce it as something completely different as opposed to something that's the same, which really is the same thing. So there's not really a business driver for it. And like I said, I've worked with companies that have started here and then have transitioned away. Like, for example, what I've sketched just up here, like, there's no reason why you can't just get rid of product owner and retitle it as an associate product manager, which is an industry term and lots of companies use it and it makes sense. And you could just retitle it, and then you move completely away from having a product owner role in the company at all. And companies do that eventually. Some of them still keep them kind of each to their own, but I would be focusing on one of these two. I'd be staying away from this one. Hope that helps. Video ended up a little longer than I expected, but ping me if you have any more questions. And if anybody who watches this as well, if you have any questions, happy to try and help. This is kind of what I do. So yeah, awesome.